Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In this video I'd like to use our MTP add-ons for NinjaTrader 7 to have a look at some analysis we were doing yesterday in our trading room. I particularly want to look at this analysis because it shows when a market basically did not unfold as anticipated. And I think it's important to show videos when markets don't unfold as anticipated, because this can happen and will happen in our everyday trading. It's all too easy to show good examples, but very rare that software developers show examples that didn't unfold as anticipated. So I'd just like to take a look at this. First of all, for standard traders, this is actually the ES on a 3-minute chart. Standard MTPredictor traders would have had a red STF, therefore they'd been quite happy to take this sell setup, which would have gone down to the first target for a nice profit. However, what I was looking at in the trading room is we tend to use the larger degree time frame. So for this we go to the 15-minute chart, and for this I put a decision point on. So what I was looking at yesterday was I was looking at how the ES came down into this 15-minute decision point support. Now this happened in our trading room yesterday live, so what I was suggesting and what I tend to normally look for is a rally off this, then look for an ABC correction for our holy grail long trade setup. However, if we go back to the 3-minute, let's see what happened. Here indeed was our 15-minute support. The market rallied off this, but only unfolded as an ABC correction, so that was our first warning that things might not be unfolding as anticipated. However, even if this was the initial rally off the low, the market did come back and did correct back into a setup here for a TS4 buy setup. In other words, that was our ABC correction. What I normally suggest to do then is to look to trade as if it's a wave 3 up. So I would have been looking here for a rally into the typical wave 3 WPT, which is up there, which would have been a nice trade. But as you can see, the market didn't do this, and in fact it went back down. So in this case, all the market did at this 15-minute decision point support was basically bobble along sideways for a while before making the decision to carry on down. And this is why I wanted to do this video, because sometimes the market simply does not do what we anticipate, and that's okay. So would this have been a losing trade, this long trade? Well, another example I was looking at yesterday in our trading room was how a market unfolds when the trade is going with you. In other words, if you're long off this potentially a wave 2 low here, you're anticipating a strong wave 3 type rally. In other words, the market should confirm this by showing strength to the upside. However, the market didn't do this. It basically went sideways, and if we place our Elliott wave analysis on this high here, you can see all it did was an A, B, C correction. In other words, this market moved up in an ABC pattern. ABC patterns are corrective, and this is one thing I was talking about in the webinar yesterday, is that when the market makes a corrective pattern, you should be worried, or warning bells should start ringing to say that this is not the impulsive move that you're anticipating. So if you were long off this low here, as soon as this ABC came in and the market started to back off from it, you should have automatically thought, well, our holy grail trade setup is no longer on the cards, and it looks like the market is not confirming a rally, so therefore at the very least you should have brought your stops to break even. In other words, being stopped out for a 0 or break-even trade. So I thought this was a very good example, and in fact we can learn more from examples that don't unfold as anticipated rather than just showing good examples. So this is why I wanted to do this video today, to show how, yes, this was a perfectly valid buy setup here for a potential holy grail trade setup to the long side, but it didn't unfold as anticipated. The market basically only made an ABC rally, which is actually corrective, so therefore when this came in at the typical wave C WPT, which is our pink zone here, we should have then said, okay, it's not rallying as anticipated, the market odds on is then going to roll over and carry on down to new lows. So therefore, at the very least, stop to break even, a break even trade on that. Now, not all days unfold as anticipated, and not all days unfold really well like this using the 15-minute support and resistance like that. However, some days do. And in the trading webinar, I was looking at the day before, whereas if we put the 15-minute resistance on from the previous day's high, which was there, notice how it caught Tuesday's high absolutely perfectly. So in this example, the decision point caught the high perfectly, which then nailed the very high of the day and set the decline down for the rest of the day. This unfolded like this on the 15-minute ES and the 15-minute YM, and this actually allowed us to, when we actually went down to the 3-minute chart, to manage our buy setup there differently, and also allowed us to get a short trade off this ABC correction for the advanced traders among you. But for the more standard traders, if we go to the NQ and don't look at yesterday but look at the day before, we had two very nice sell setups. This TS4 sell setup here actually caught the very high of the day and allowed you to ride the trade all the way down into the close. So I'll just put the risk reward on into the close, which was there, for a very nice plus 5-hour profit. It also allowed you to have a pyramid opportunity here as another TS4 sell setup arrived as well, so you could have pyramided to add additional profits down into that low there. So this is the nature of trading, basically, where we had Tuesday, which was a very good day, where we on the NQ, where we had a couple of very good sell setups, including now the very high of the day. However, yesterday, which was Wednesday the 14th, it was not quite so good, and in particular the example that I was looking for after our trading webinar did not unfold as anticipated, but it gave early warning of not unfolding as anticipated because of our pattern going up off that potential low. So hopefully this has been a good training video for you all to show an example that has not unfolded as anticipated, and the reasons why, and what you could have done to minimize your exposure on that. In other words, a break-even trade, and to show you how the day before was very good, and just show you that is how trading unfolds. You will have very good days, and you'll have other days where your job is, or job as a trader, is to minimize the losses, minimize your exposure, and as such keep your capital intact, ready for the next day.